So welcome everyone to a presentation that's all about social media. And if you notice the title to this presentation, it is more about how to use social media without it taking over your life. Because that's the thing coaches tell me all the time they're struggling with is I know I should use social media, but it seems like a full-time job. I want you to be doing coaching, so I'm going to share with you the secrets to being able to have a really good social media presence without it taking over your life. So I am William Arruda. You might know me from the ICF Business Development Series. I'm the host of that, or from other presentations that I've done at the ICF. My focus is all around personal branding, social media, and helping coaches be successful. So here's what we're going to talk about as we move through today. First, I'm going to tell you what you absolutely need to do before you even start using social media. Then we'll talk about the importance of being really clear about your audience. I'll help you think about how you create your strategy and plan for social media. And then I'm going to challenge you with some things to do immediately. So let me start with the single biggest mistake coaches make when it comes to using social media. And that is that they start using social media before they should. You really want to make sure that you have crystal clarity about your brand and your message, the people you want to influence, and a strategy. Just putting stuff out there is going to waste your time. But when you have these other things in place, you'll be able to maximize the value you deliver. So let's start with what you need to do first. And it's pretty much my favorite topic in the whole world, which is know your brand. You need to be crystal clear about who you are. Your brand is your unique promise of value. It sets you apart from everyone else. It's something you commit to delivering every day, and it has value to the people you're looking to influence. So when you're uncovering your brand, you need to look at the 6 drivers of personal branding: your passions, your superpowers, your values, your differentiators, your purpose, why are you here, and your goals. And I want to take you through a couple of these because you need to be clear about this before you put your messages in the marketplace, because they need to be branded messages, right? So let's talk about something really important when you're building your brand. And it has to do with one of the drivers I was just talking about. It's eliminating this 4-letter word that begins with F. So I'd like you to, I know that you're all, if you're participating live right now, you're in this large virtual group. So why don't you share your ideas for this ugly 4-letter F word? And I know you're all really polite, so I'm eager to see what these words are when I look in the chat. You're probably thinking words like fear or fail or fake, right? Because branding's all about authenticity. But this word is even more lethal to your success. And the word is fine, right? And with the word fine, I want you to think of all of its synonyms: average, adequate, okay, acceptable. Do you want people to describe your coaching as fine? No. You want them to use superlatives to describe your coaching. The reason fine is so bad is because we're actually all committed to becoming fine. Because what we do is we take our weaknesses and we're really upset about them, so we want to do something with them, and what happens is we become fine at them. And then we become fine at a lot of things if we keep fixing our weaknesses, because we have this false belief that the path to success is paved with fixing weaknesses. Not true. The path to success of the coach is maximizing the things that make you great. So if you have a weakness that'll get in the way of your success, absolutely become fine at it. But if it's not getting in the way of your success, ignore it and turn your attention to the things you do better than anyone else. These are your superpowers, and they're going to come in handy in social media as well. So think about the things you do better than anyone else and use them as a way to stand out from everyone else. Here is my definition of a superpower. It's nothing more than a signature strength that helps you both stand out and deliver exceptional value to your clients, right? And the more you integrate the superpower into what you do every day, the more value you will deliver. And when you do that, people will be using superlatives to describe you: best, outstanding, exceptional, extraordinary. Really important that you get these superpowers out visible in social media so that you need to know what they are. The message here, don't be fine, be extraordinary, right? Everyone has the opportunity to be extraordinary with their client base. All right. So really important as you think about your brand, how do you make this happen? How do you know your superpower? So I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is obviously no cost, but this is where you can go if you want to go through a series of 3 videos to help you uncover your superpowers. And this will make it really easy for you to start to integrate them into what you do. All right. Now, in addition to thinking about superpowers, you want to think about your brand from the outside in. One of the biggest misconceptions about personal branding is that personal branding is about chest pounding. It's all about you. It's focused on you. In fact, it's not the truth. Your brand is held in the hearts and minds of those who know you. So you need to know what they think about you as you build your brand, right? If you walk around saying, I'm the most strategic coach on the planet, but we ask 10 people who know you what words they've used to describe you, and they don't use the word strategic, well, you are not the most strategic coach on the planet. So you really need to validate your self-perception, right, with the feedback from others. And as you do that, you'll start to get crystal clarity about your brand, or you'll realize that maybe your authentic brand is not visible to others. So you need to amplify those elements of your brand that you want to be visible to others. So branding is not about you. It's about what everybody thinks about you. So think about that, right? If people were to describe you, would they all use the same words? Would they use the words you would use to describe yourself? You may not know. I'm going to give you an opportunity to check this out so that you can reach out to people in your community and validate your self-reflection with client feedback and feedback from your colleagues and your networking contacts. We're going to have a new version of a product coming out, and I'm going to give it to you for free. So there's obviously no cost to anything that I will talk about today in this presentation. If you want to have it when it becomes available, which will be in the fall, all you need to do is send me an email. In the subject line, put ICF Coach 360 Reach, and I'll make sure to send it to you. This will help you validate those self-perceptions, but make sure you work on the self-perceptions first, because you don't want all this feedback coming in to influence your own self-perceptions. All right. So we talked about knowing your brand. Who are you, right? Really important for you to get crystal clear about it. So what's your unique promise of value? What's unique to you? What's that promise you commit to delivering? And what do your clients find valuable? What elements of your brand are your clients experiencing that are really positive and powerful and exciting for them? Then you need to translate that real world brand into your virtual brand. Here's what we know. Everything has moved online. Everything has moved online. So you need to be not only clear about your brand, you need to make sure that your virtual brand is identical to your real world brand. We call this translating your brand, right? So that the flesh and bones you and the bits and bytes you are really the same you, and people are experiencing that. So this means you need to Google yourself, because people, when they want to learn about you, they're going to Google you. And the good news here is all you need to do is focus on page 1. 89% of people never go beyond page 1 in a Google search. So what does that mean? It means all you need to do is look at those. There were about 10 entries, and ask yourself, if somebody were looking at this, what would it say about me? What would it mean? And how would I want to evolve this so that it could be reflective of who I am in the real world? Okay. So by the way, do you know what? Take a guess. Write this in the chat right now. What do you think it's called when you Google yourself? Take a moment to just jot down your answers. There are actually 2 words that describe what happens when you Google yourself. One is ego surfing, and the other is narcisssurfing. So you need to ego surf or narcisssurf regularly so that you know what's out there. There's a concept called Digital First. Now, I wish I came up with this concept, but I did not. It's a brilliant guy in Montreal. His name's Mitch Joel. He wrote a book called Control, Alt, Delete. And in it, and by the way, this book is now, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. He talked about how digital precedes real, right? So now our first impression, which might have been formed in person before, and then would go on the web to learn about someone after that to augment what we learn. Now, digital happens first. So you need to make that digital brand incredible. And social media is one of the tools that you can use to do it. But before you even do that, you need to make sure that your profile is great. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, the reason this is so important is because of a couple of cognitive biases we have. The first one is called primacy. Primacy means essentially we believe the first thing we learn, right? So somebody Googles you, whatever shows up, they're like, that's who this person is. Now, when you combine primacy with a second cognitive bias called anchoring, this is where the trouble begins, right? So anchoring means once we form a first impression, we don't want to change our minds, right? So imagine this. There's a new client checking you out. They check you out online. They decide that this is who you are. Then you have your introductory coaching call with them, and you're actually nothing like the Google results that they saw. They're experiencing a different person. And there you are on the screen, right? It's not just the results. Guess what? Those people still believe the Google stuff because that's what preceded that interaction. So here's the great news. If your Google content and your online identity matches the real you, then something great happens. And this has to do with confirmation bias. So if somebody meets you online and they say, this is who you are, and then you have your first virtual session with them and you're just like that, right? Those multiple positive, consistent branded experiences mean forever you can do no wrong, right? You're on a pedestal. The more of those experiences, the more you get put on that pedestal. The reverse is true as well. If your Google results weren't so great, and then that first meeting doesn't go off, it's a little lackluster, forever you can do no right. So the great news here is if you master your online identity, and then you always show up, as I'm sure you do as a professional coach, delivering your absolute best, then you're always going to be in a really great place in your clients' minds and thoughts. Okay, so primacy, anchoring, confirmation bias, the reason it's so important for you to get your online identity right. And guess what? LinkedIn is your most favorite, best friend when it comes to doing this. And here's why. Often when people are checking you out in a professional capacity, they'll go directly to LinkedIn because everyone in the world, everywhere in the world, right? People know that LinkedIn is the professional social media. Even in China, where a lot of social media are banned, LinkedIn is available. So there are people everywhere in the world using LinkedIn. In fact, there are almost 1 billion people using LinkedIn. So when we want to learn about somebody professionally, we might go right to LinkedIn and skip Google altogether. That means all you need to do is worry about your LinkedIn profile. The second reason this is really important is because your LinkedIn profile is going to show up at the top of your Google results. It'll be either in the first or second place most of the time. And we know that 62% of all the clicks go to the first 3 items in Google results. So great news for you is even if they start at Google, they'll end up at LinkedIn. So when it comes to delivering a first impression, LinkedIn is the key. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, you know what? Well, that sounds good, but guess what? My target audience doesn't use LinkedIn, right? They like Pinterest or Facebook, and that's totally fine. They still might check you out in LinkedIn, even if they're engaging every day in these other social media. If that's the case, you don't need to be visible in LinkedIn except to have a really powerful, impressive, branded profile. All right. So what this requires, though, is a mindset shift. So I have been talking to people about LinkedIn since 2003, when LinkedIn launched, and people still have this mistaken mindset. It's not a wrong mindset because when LinkedIn launched, LinkedIn was the place where you put your resume, your e-resume, right? And you did some e-networking. Today, LinkedIn is a place where you go to deliver a powerful first impression. Okay, so think about that. LinkedIn is my place to deliver a powerful first impression. And the great thing about it is the way your LinkedIn profile is structured, it gives you a bucket for all the kinds of content, for each of those different but important kinds of content that you need to use to deliver a powerful message. Your profile needs to sit at the connection point between credibility and likability, right? So credibility is all those things, right? You've gone to coaching school, you're an ICF accredited coach. That's amazing. Likability are the more human elements, your purpose and your values and your passion, and the things that you love to do when you're superpowers. So you take things you learn about the brand and you mix in all of this credibility, and what happens? You have this really compelling LinkedIn profile. It's really important that you get those right. Some people focus so much on the credibility that you're super credible, but people are thinking, gosh, really smart, really accomplished, but do I want to work with her or do I want to work with him, right? And some people have the likability part, right? So it's all, lots of passion and excitement and joy and interest, but do you have the credentials? So you want to make sure you have both. If you want to test to see how your profile, maybe you want to work on your profile a little bit and then you can use it. I have a quiz for you. All you need to do is go to this address and you'll be able to access it. And what it will do is show you where you show up in this 4-box model. You see the 4-box model here. What we know from business school is that you always want to be in the upper right quadrant in this model. But it'll give you a feel for whether or not you need to amp up a little bit of credibility or amp up a little bit of likability so that you can be right at the intersection of those areas. Once you do this, then your first impression is going to be powerful. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be compelling, and you're going to get people to be excited about you. Now, there is something brand new, and it may not be in your profile yet, but I promise you it's coming. It is called the LinkedIn cover story. And the LinkedIn cover story is really, really powerful because what does the LinkedIn cover story do? It allows you to deliver a 30-second message on video. So sitting right behind this image of your face, right, your headshot, when someone gets to your profile, a little video pops up. And when that video pops up, what happens is, and you can see it just popped up there for me, is people can learn about you. If you want to see it, you can just hold your phone up to this QR code and you can see my little video message. So I encourage you to come up with your 30-second pitch. This is an opportunity for people to connect with you on a deeper, more emotional level, because when you're using video, you not only have words, which is what you have in the rest of your profile, but you have tone of voice, intonation, body language, and even what appears behind you. Notice this gorgeous build logo that the amazing ICF people created that sits behind me. So you can use your logo or whatever it is that you want to communicate your brand, okay? So get your LinkedIn profile in shape. It is going to be your first impression. Now, I said you need to do this first, and you do. If you don't work on this first and get clear about your brand, everything after this is going to have less impact than it would if you have that crystal clarity. But the second thing you need to do is know your audience. Your audience are the people you're looking to influence. So clients, prospects, networking contacts, partners. Who are the people you're looking to influence in social media? The key here is people used to think personal branding is about being famous, right? It's not. Personal branding is about being selectively famous, right? To that community of people where you want to be known, you're everywhere. You're there. You're always visible. But to the rest of the world, you live in total obscurity. So you need to be crystal clear about your audience so that you can be visible, available, and valuable to them. And that's what you want to be in social media. Those 3 words are really important. Visible, always in their purview. Available, ready to be able to interact with them, and delivering value every day. And when we get to the social media section, we'll talk about how critical that is and how you can do that. When it comes to your audience, what you want to do is think about where do they live? Where do they go for information? Where can you find them? You don't want to be visible in every single social media platform, because then it will become your full-time job, right? You'll have a hard time finding time to be a coach. You just want to be visible in the places, or at least you want to have the biggest impact in the places where your clients live. So you want the intersection of how you like to communicate, right? And where your audience lives. And if that's the sweet spot for you, and that's where you're going to put most of your attention when it comes to social media. Now, I will share with you later something where there is import in being in other elements of social media, but not to focus all of your attention or time there. So as you're thinking about your audience, here's what you need to do. Ask yourself, who are they, right? So who are my peeps? What interests them, right? What do they like to know about? What are they searching for? What are the topics they might be pursuing? Where do they live online? We talked about that, right? And there's so many different tools that you could be using. What medium do they prefer? Do they prefer images like Instagram, or text, or video like YouTube, right? And then what's my message to them? And you need a distinctive message that you're communicating, because that's what branding is about. If your message is the same as everyone else's message, no one's going to get excited about it. But when your message is unique and valuable to them, then people are going to pay attention and they're going to stand out. All right. So let's talk about creating your plan. And this is the key. Now notice, a lot of people, they start here. Or maybe they don't even come up with a plan. They just start putting stuff on the web. I'm just going to put it out there and people are going to see it. That's the waste of time. The creating a plan doesn't happen until you're clear about your brand and you're really clear about your audience. And if you're wondering, well, how do I find out about my audience? Ask them. Ask members of your audience. What's your preferred social media? How do you like to consume content? What kinds of things do you find that you're always engaging in? The more you hear from them, the more you can refine your plan. Now, we talked about visible, available, and valuable. The valuable piece is the most important part of this. If you throw stuff out there just because you want to be visible, but it doesn't deliver value, you're kind of on the narcissism side of the scale here, right? What you want to do is always be on the altruism side, a little bit on the, wow, you know what? I'm delivering value every day to my audience. The more you deliver value, the more they're going to come to you when they need what you have to offer. So I created this thing called the strawberry test. And here's what we've learned about, in general, right? This may not be your target audience, but in general, what people want. They want something that essentially is like a strawberry. It's bite-sized, right? People's attention spans are short. They don't want a 400-page white paper. They want something that's bite-sized. They want it to be inviting, right? They want to engage in it. So it needs to be interesting right from the get-go. And it needs to be healthful, or in this case, good for you, deliver some kind of value. So as you're creating content, think about what's inviting, what's going to get people to engage with my content. How can I make it small and potent, right? And how can I make it valuable to them? And then there's one more element you need to add. In season, which means it needs to be, relevant to what's happening right now. So think about what your clients are dealing with right now and be talking about that. That's going to make it most valuable. All right. Now I am going to share with you the most powerful technique for mastering social media without it taking over your life, right? That's the key. And I know if we had a drum roll, we'd do a drum roll now. And here it is. Be lazy. Now, I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, maybe a little irreverent, but I'm going to tell you why this is such a valuable technique as you move forward. Okay. Being lazy has many components, right? And what you want to do is maximize each of these components as you move forward. And what it means is you will create the most valuable content with the least amount of effort, right? So the first piece is about being strategic, and we'll talk about the things that you can do. So rather than be reactionary, you want to have a plan. Then you want to be able to use all of the different kinds of media that you can without having to create new content. You want to share it everywhere as long as it doesn't take you a lot of time. You want to mention others, and we'll talk about the importance of engaging others as you move forward. And then there's this technique called repeating yourself, and a really important reason you need to repeat yourself. And I'll tell you that as we move forward. So let's start with being strategic. Do not create one-off communications. Create campaigns, right? So if you're coaching CEOs or leaders, right, come up with 5 leadership tips, and then each one is its own separate communication that you're going to share. A campaign is going to be more powerful than just individual things all over the place. So think about a series that you can create. Build your content ahead of time. So rather than say, oh, it's Monday again, and what am I going to put on social media? If you have something that has a fairly long shelf life, right, you can create a few weeks or months worth of content and then just drip it out slowly as part of this campaign. Of course, you always have to stay on topic. You can't today be talking about leadership and tomorrow be talking about diversity and the next week be talking about, building relationships. So be thinking about what's that topic, and then curate. And we'll talk about why curating is so important. Curating really means you don't have to create content at all, but you do have to add your point of view. Then max the media. So you can use other media to communicate text. If you have a quote, for example, right, only 2.5% of people can actually multitask. Show me that as a graph. If you have quotes, right, rather than just put them in text form, just put them on a little background, turn them into images. So whenever you're sharing, you can share that same exact thing in many different kinds of media. And that helps people remember it. It also lets you take one thing, like one quote, and be able to share it multiple times in multiple places, in multiple media. You're not constantly searching for the quotes that will help you communicate. So think about how you can maximize the media. You also want to use video as much as you can. So it doesn't matter which alphabet you use, whether you're using Chinese or the Roman alphabet. Words only have so much impact, right? However, when you combine words with tone of voice, intonation, body language, you're getting people excited about who you are. So turn whatever you have into a video. Let's say you write a 300-word document about something, an article or a blog. Think about how you could also deliver that exact same content, turn that 300-word article into a script, and then just do it in front of a camera. And don't use one or the other, use both of them, right? So you're maximizing your visibility without having to recreate the content. You're turning an article into a script, into a video. This is my favorite thing, and it's my favorite technique for being lazy. Steal content. So, okay, it's not really stealing content, but it is kind of borrowing content. And that's what you do when you curate. And the reason curation is so important is because when you curate, someone else did all the hard work, right? And you get to have credit for it, but you only have credit for it if you do these things. So let's say you are, Forbes is your favorite place. Here's an article I wrote for Forbes. So one thing that's missing from your work from home routine and how to get it. No matter what site you go to, wherever it is that you consume information that you think is valuable, if you think it's valuable for your audience, share it with them. So notice right here, you can share it with Facebook and Twitter and on LinkedIn. You click on LinkedIn, for example, if that's where you're going to share it, and you get to add what you want to say about this article and hashtags. If you don't add your point of view in this first piece and add the appropriate hashtags, you're wasting your time. When you do add your point of view and you do add the hashtags, guess what happens? you own the content that somebody else wrote. It could be as simple as really great article, pay close attention to the second paragraph. That's where you'll learn this, this, and this, right? Or the author of this article gives some really great points. I would add this one, and this one, right? So now you're making it more valuable. You're not having to create it, but you're making it valuable to your audience. Then include all the right hashtags, that the words and terms that your clients will be looking for so that they can more easily find it. And so that LinkedIn, in this case, can direct it to those people knowing that those are the hashtags they follow. So curation is your friend. The other thing I told you I would tell you a little bit about is, let's say you say LinkedIn is the tool that you want to use. You hate Twitter, right? You don't want to tweet every day. You're not a Kardashian. You're not Justin Bieber. But, and you think your people are at LinkedIn. There's probably a subset of your people who are at Twitter. Guess what? In this case, just use Twitter as a pointing device. Just say, I just wrote this article about such and such a thing and posted it to my LinkedIn profile. Then all those people who pay attention in Twitter will be directed to this content that you created. The goal is to maximize the visibility among the people who are interested in what you're talking about, right? So that means not having to come up with original tweets. It's just posting a link with all the right hashtags to get people to your content that you publish somewhere else. So in this case, Twitter can be your friend. All right. Hashtag. Don't ignore it. Every single thing, you should know all the hashtags that are connected to what your audience is interested in, and then put all the relevant ones of those on every single thing you post. This will draw people to your content. You want to make sure that they can see it. And then everywhere that you decide you want to be, share the same content. This way, you don't have to recreate content, right? If you're a TikTok person or a SlideShare person or a Pinterest person, you can put this content everywhere. Again, create once, distribute multiple times. Another really important thing is to get other people to share it with their connections. And the way to do this is to mention them, right, in whatever it is you're sharing. Just at and their handle and say, what do you think about this? Or I love the way you talk about this topic. Whatever it is, that will drive them to your content. Then they will comment or share it. Then their followers will see the content. So the more you can involve people in a real meaningful way, the more you're creating visibility of your content without having to recreate content, right? And it's the content creation that takes a lot of time. The other thing you want to do is sometimes you write an article for your LinkedIn blog, for example, and you publish it. You say, great. I'll write out my new article now. Guess what? Only between 2 and 10% of your audience has actually seen it. So you want to post it multiple times to make sure that they see it. Otherwise, you're doing all that work creating and you're not making it visible to the people that you've worked hard to build as followers and connections. Okay, so that's it. That's how you build your plan. And when you do, I promise you'll spend less time and you'll have maximum impact. So here is my plan for you. If you attend, and by the way, I just want to give a little plug for ICF Converge. They do an amazing job. They find the most incredible people who have brilliance to share, and they're interesting, right? And I love participating in this every year or every other year. However, if you just attend these sessions and don't take action as a result of this participation, you'll get this much out of it. But if you actually do something with it, you'll have a big impact. So here is my challenge. It's a rousing challenge for you. So start with you, right? This means craft your brand statement, your unique promise of value. Align your digital first impression. If somebody meets you online first, which they will, make sure that it's just as compelling and exciting and interesting as the real you. And then what's your message? What is it that you want to talk about? And your specific point of view. So get clear on that first and spend a little bit of time thinking about this. And I promise you, it's going to deliver some value for you. Then you need an audience, right? If you're going to put all this stuff out there, you want to have not any audience, right? You want a specific focused audience, the people that you're looking to influence. So be strategic and start to increase your connections and followers so that when you publish something, more and more people that you're looking to influence will see it. Get really clear about who they are, where they live, what they're interested in, and how they like to consume information. That's going to mean that you will not waste time on activities that aren't going to impact and at least be visible to your audience. And have I mentioned it before? Hashtags, hashtags, hashtags. They are the tool that are going to help you get your content in front of people who aren't even followers, right? In fact, LinkedIn now will take your hashtags and they'll say, this person, even though they're not a connection of the person who wrote this, they love content on this topic. We're going to put this in their feed, and it can start to bring people to you. And who doesn't want to do that? And then the last thing that you need to do is get started, right? So start with one campaign. Think about something I did, for example, a really successful campaign I did, it was just personal branding questions that will help you uncover your brand. And every week I published a different question, right? One about values and one about superpowers and one about passion. And people started to see it as a series. It took me almost no time to create, but I had a series. I did them in video, and I shot all the video on one day, right? Just did a little bit of costume change each time. Looked like it was a different day. And then I would publish them once a week. So what's your campaign? Then design to maximize it. How are you going to be able to turn maybe an article into a script, into a video, into a quote? How can you maximize the content so that you're not always creating? And then see what works. You know, what gets the most views? What gets the most comments? What gets the most shares? When you know what's working with your audience, do more of that and stop doing the other things, right? That way, again, you can start to focus on the things that will have the maximum impact without it taking over your life. All right. So that is my challenge for you. We are now going to have this opportunity for a little bit of Q&A. And no question is off base as long as it's on target. And no question is a stupid question. I know a lot of people are really uncomfortable asking some questions about social media because it just seems so scary and nebulous and weird and doesn't seem to make sense all the time. So whatever your questions are, we're going to do a fun Q&A session. And I encourage you to jot down the actions that you're going to take as a result of having participated. And I will share with you, these are my contact details. If you are interested in, getting more, a link to some resources or some help that I can send you in the right direction for an article or something that will help you move forward, don't hesitate to reach out. Of course, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd be delighted to be connected with you there. And so I'm looking forward to our Q&A right now.